Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, Designs by Dana. I'm Dana, and with this video, I'm going to work on a single page layout. You can see I have one picture here. Let me hold this up a little closer for you. This is a picture that I stole off of Facebook. This is my great nephew, and yes, I think I'm aging myself a little bit there. This little guy is having a totally fun time in the backyard here with this little water toy. It looks like a little splash pad, I guess, that you hook up with the hose, and you can see it holds a little bit of water, and it's got these little fountains that squirt water up from this like a vinyl splash pad is what I'm going to call it. But I really like this photo. I love the smile on his face and all the fun colors here, and just represents everything that summer represents, and having fun in the backyard with the garden hose. You know, when we were kids, it was just literally the garden hose and a sprinkler, but this is a little bit more modern time backyard fun. So I've had this photo sitting here on my scrapbook desk for a while, waiting to come across the perfect pattern papers to scrapbook with this. And one of the things with Stampin' Up papers is that they haven't really come out with a lot of great themed scrapbook papers as of yet. So it's been sitting here staring at me, just looking for the perfect papers. So I was recently browsing through the website, and I came across this paper packet in the Stampin' Up world. It's Design Series paper, or DSP as we call it. And it just totally jumped out at me and screamed to be scrapbooked with this photo. So let me put this aside, and I want to bring in this paper packet because I found it in the clearance section, and I want to share it with you because it was such a great bargain. So this is the paper packet. Now this comes in all of these different beautiful patterns and colors, and there's 12 different patterns, and you get 4 sheets of each one of these patterns. So there's a total of 48 sheets of paper in this packet, and it retails for $30, but right now it is on clearance for 10% off. So it's a great deal. And as we go through each one of these papers, you will see that, of course, they're double-sided. So with each design, you get more like a monochromatic pattern, and then you get another pattern on the opposite side to give a totally different look. So let me tell you what colors are in this, and then we'll walk through and look at all of the different patterns. One of the things I like about the way that Stampin' Up packages their DSPs is you get this kind of a cardboard or chipboard piece here, and it gives you all of your product information here. So this is called the Dandy Designs 12 by 12 DSP, and it tells me all of the different colors that are in here. Now, one of the reasons I think this is probably a clearance item is that there's one color in here that seems to be discontinued or no longer available, and that is the Mango Melody. So as we go through here, I did put them in order. So we'll start here on the end. This is the Balmy Blue, and then we have the Calypso Coral, Coastal Cabana, the Fresh Freesia, which I find terribly difficult to say. Then we have the Granny Apple Green. This is the Mango Melody. I think it is very close to the new Crushed Cury. So I don't think that would be hard to match with something else. And then lastly, we have the Petal Pink. So let me quickly just walk through all of these colors and show you both sides of each pattern paper. So here again is the Petal Pink, and you've got front and back. So monochromatic here, and you can see there's a little pattern there. And then this side's got a multicolored pattern with the kind of the chevron design here. So this is our first color. second, we have another petal pink, and then on the other side, a nice multicolored polka dot pattern. Very fun. And then we have this, what was it called? Mango Melody. Really like this pattern. And so you can see this one's trimmed down. So this is one I've pulled out to go with my photo. So I'm going to set that one aside. And then on the other side of this one, we've got a really fun multi thickness diagonal stripe there. So lots of fun. Then we have a star pattern in the same color, the Mango Melody. And again, a little bit of a multicolor pattern with lots of different flowers. Now we go to the Granny Apple Green. This is another one that I have trimmed down. I think I want to use this with my layout, so I'm going to set this one aside. And on the opposite side here, we've got that same chevron pattern, but in multicolors to coordinate with the Granny Apple Green. And now we have a really fun kind of a pinstripe pattern in the Granny Apple Green. And then another multicolored polka dot. This one really reminds me of Easter with the greens and the pinks. And I guess this is more of the lavender, the fresh freesia. So that's really fun. And here is our fresh freesia. I love the grid pattern. This will be great for base pages and a lot of other different things, but that's what it jumps out at me. And then we have a fun little plaid on the other side. Here is a two-tone floral pattern. So I'm guessing that here we have a multicolored little square graph pattern. This one's very similar to the petal pink, so it's very subtle two-tone. And this is the Coastal Cabana. And then we have a multicolored plaid again. And here we have our Calypso Coral. I think I'm going to use this for my layout, so I've trimmed that down a little bit. And then we've got the stars. And then again, we've got that multicolored plaid. And here we've got the Balmy Blue. Again, I like these polka dots. It reminds me of the water, so I think I might use this one for our layout. And on the other side of this one, we've got, again, the fun stripes and the different widths of those stripes in the diagonal. And finally, in the Balmy Blue, we've got some more of the grid pattern. And on the other side, we've got the multicolors. So with this, like I said, there's 12 different patterns or colors, but because you get two patterns, one on each side, you get a total of 24 different patterns and papers with this packet. So I think it's a great deal, lots of variety in colors, and there's just a ton of things that you can do with this one DSP packet. So I'm going to pull this aside. Let's bring back in our photo and look at the colors that I've pulled out, what I think that I want to use with this picture. So I've pulled out colors that I think will pull from all of the multicolors here in this, I'm going to call it the splash pad. So I've got the green, I've got some of this Calypso Coral, kind of a reddish orange, some yellow here to pull from his shorts, and then of course the blue, which would pull in kind of the water theme. So I'm thinking those are the four colors that I want to use. Now the idea that I have for this layout is to create a chevron pattern that would go across the full page. So chevrons here and kind of layered. And so what I want to teach you is how to make a folded chevron that will extend all the way across your page without the need of a Cricut. The easy way would be to pull out your Cricut or whatever cutting machine that you have, but not everybody has that tool readily accessible to you. So what I'm going to do is show you how to make a folded chevron that will extend all the way across this page, and then we'll stack up these different colors. And I think that's going to give this a really fun look with all of these bright colors to kind of be a backdrop for some of that, the colors in that photo. So I'm going to need to pull in my Versamat and get these strips of paper, and then we'll start building out that folded chevron. I show you how to create that. So let me get my Versamat and we'll get started. Okay, so I have my 4 different patterns of paper here, and I've cut them down to 2-inch strips. Now for this, we're going to need some different supplies. So I have my ruler, my bone folder, my pencil, and my scissors. And I'm using my Versamat for this part of the layout, and I'm tacking this down. You don't have to tack it down, but I wanted to show you how you could do that to hold it in place. And I'm using my pencil and I'm making a mark 1 inch. So I'm kind of dividing this piece in half at the 1 inch mark. And then you've got your lines on your grid lines on your mat for 1 inch intervals. And I'm making a line every inch, and I'm alternating the top portion of the paper and the bottom portion. And to do that, then I'm going to cut those lines. So you could just make your pencil line all the way across the paper, but when you cut, you will want to remember to only cut every other line. So by doing it just the top and the bottom, then I don't have to remember to cut every other line. So you can see now I'm just cutting those lines, and again, I just have to cut on my lines because I alternated when I made my pencil marks. So now that I have all of my pencil marks done, I've got my lines cut, I'm going to bring in my bone folder and I'm going to start folding out the chevron. So I like to start this process in the middle of the paper. It makes it a little bit easier for me. You can do it whatever works for you. And I'm just folding from the cut line inward to kind of make that triangle look. And I'm going to work from the center to the edge of the paper. And I like to use my bone folder so that I can get a nice crisp fold for each one of these little folds that I'm making to make that little triangular fold. So I'm going to work my way down to the edge, and then I'm going to come back to the center and work my way back towards the other edge of the paper. So at this point, it may not quite start looking like the chevron yet. It's not really taking full shape, but as soon as I start to work on the other side, you'll really see how this piece of paper will start to take form in the chevron. So now I'm going to turn over to that other side, and again, I'm starting in the center just because it's easier for me. It might work different for you, but that's what works for me. But now you can see how it's taking the form and the shape of this chevron. So I'm going to again work from the center to the edge, and then I'll work my way back again from the center to the other edge. And again, I'm using my bone folder because that's what's easier for me. If something else is easier for you, you do what works for you. And it also helps for me because I have a little bit of a fingernail. So as I'm folding these pieces in, especially on this part right here, you can see I'm using my nail to help make that triangle a really nice crisp point right here. So it might be hard to see because I have this sped up just a little bit, but having putting your nail right there in that triangle right there really helps get that pointed triangle. So now you have my chevron, and just showing you that it does extend through the full piece of your 12 by 12. I've got one little spot I need to make a tweak here to fix it. And with this, you can, if you want to add stitching, I'm debating on whether or not I'm going to add some ink lines to it, but I'm going to think about that. So I've done the rest off camera. And now before I glue them down, I want to add some splatters to the background of my paper because this is a water theme and I'm thinking splatters would look great. So I'm grabbing a blue shimmer brush here, and this is not marked, so I think it might be Bluebird, but this was before Close to My Heart started labeling the colors. So here I've got my black glass mat, and you can see it works really well, and I can just wipe up any excess. So that worked great. That's a new way to use my new glass mat. And now I'm pulling in items from my stash. So this is a stamp set called Turtley Awesome, and I think it's adorable. And I want to show you a little trick for how you can stamp and die cut out items when you know you're going to use multiples. So my vision for this is that I'm probably going to use several of these cute little turtles throughout this layout, and I don't want to stamp and die cut them individually. So I'm bringing in my Misty platform here, and I'm going to use 3 different turtles. So I've got them positioned, and I'm making note of where my paper is positioned on this grid paper. And this is just an old Cricut mat that I've cut down and used to have that stickiness. And I should have brought out my little tool here because you can see I'm stamping this multiple times, and I'm had to stand up and really give this some good pressure. So after 3 times of inking that, I think I got it where I wanted it to be. So I'm going to bring in my thin cuts here and line these up. And then when I cut this through my die cut machine, I'm actually going to cut 2 pieces of paper at a time. And ultimately, I think I ended up cutting, 4 of each turtle. So I have a lot of turtles. I'm not ended up using all of them, but it was great to have extras. So now I remember, where I had my paper positioned on that grid. So I'm going to put it right back in the same spot. And I'm just doing a sanity check here to make sure that it is in the right spot. And I think I need to just slightly move it over a little bit. So getting that in the right position here. Now all I have to do is put my little blank die cuts right back in the hole, almost like putting the puzzle back together. And I can continue to stamp up these because I did not take them off of my platform. And I brought my tool in this time. And now I can just ink and stamp up as many of these as I need to. So this makes the process go so much faster when you have multiples. If you're doing this in bulk or volume for a special project even, this is a great way to get them all done and save you a lot of time. So I brought my camera down a little bit closer because I want to show you how I'm going to color these in with the new Stampin' Blend markers. So as an artist, the first thing you should always do is make a color swatch. So I brought in all of my greens and I made a little swatch here of what the colors they were, what they look like, the lights and the darks, and have them labeled here. And then down at the bottom, I did some experimenting with mixing some of the colors. So I've mixed lemon lime and old olive and granny apple and lemon lime. And I really want to focus on the granny apple because that's the color of pattern paper I'm using for this layout. So I'm going to start with the lemon lime and old olive just to show you kind of how that's looking. And I say that, but I think I'm actually using the granny apple for this one. So I start with the light color on the Stampin' Blends, and then I'm coming in with the darker color. And you can see I'm doing this section by section. The Stampin' Blends I found are a little bit different than the other alcohol markers I have used in the past. And I'm finding that it is taking me a little bit of time to get used to them. So if you use them a lot, I would love to know what tips and tricks you have for using them. If you're new to them, you might tell me what you think of them as well. I'd love to hear what other people think. But I am finding it is a little bit of an adjustment. Not all alcohol markers are the same. I've used the Copic markers. I've used the tri-blends, even the Shin Hand that Close to My Heart used to sell. And I use Prismacolor alcohol markers quite a bit in my other artistic projects. So they're not all the same, and they do take some getting used to. What I found with these is obviously they're great because the colors match the paper, which is awesome, but they do tend to bleed a little bit more than other alcohol markers I've used. And what that means is that you have to be careful with the amount of layers you put on your paper. Whereas other brands, you can add lots and lots of layers and blending. With these markers, they don't lend themselves as much to lots of layering. So the more that you layer, the more bleeding you will have. So that's what makes the benefit of having the light and dark, and just trying to take advantage of that and leverage those two colors and blend less, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So again, if you've used these markers a lot and you have other tips, I would love for you to add comments and share those tips. But that's my experience so far, and I'm continuing to play around and experiment. So now I'm using the Granny Apple and the Lemon Lime, and you can see how that one just gives it a different contrast in color. So I'm really liking the variety, and I'm showing you how that looks with the paper. So while I have my camera down, I wanted to stamp some of these cute little beach balls that I found in my other stash. This is the summer stamp set. So I'm quickly going to stamp these, and I'm using my Stampin' Spots from Stampin' Up. So what I did is I bought all of the blank Stampin' Spots and then just bought the reinkers. And I bought half the reinkers, and then another colleague bought the other half. So I was able to get all of the Stampin' Up colors in the Stampin' Spots for a much more economical price than buying all of the ink pads up front. So that was my way of getting a little taste of all of the ink colors at a cheaper price. And they seem to be working quite well for me. So I've got all of these stamped. And I brought in some of my punches I had, and this is a 1-inch punch, and you can see it's quite big. So I have a 7/8 inch punch, and it's going to be a little too small. So kind of like Goldilocks, or a little too big, a little too small. And I have a die cut here, and it's about the same as the 1-inch, so it's not going to buy me any extra advantage. So it looks like I'm off to fussy cutting all of these beach balls. So I'm showing you one, and you can see the difference there, but I'll do the rest off camera. Now, the first thing I want to do with this base page is give it a nice border, because this is a fun, whimsical type of layout. So I wanted to add that little whimsical type of a border to it. Now, notice when I do this, my wrist is straight, my elbow is straight. The only thing I'm moving is my shoulder, and I'm just pulling that line straight down. That's the biggest secret I can give you as far as advice. Now I'm bringing in all of my chevrons, and I have that one big spot of the shimmer brush, and I'm thinking I want to cover that up if I can. And I thought that was going to work, and it didn't. So I'm going to turn my page and see if I can cover it up that way. And yep, that's going to work much better. Not that it was a problem, but I just thought, well, if I can cover it, that would be more ideal. So I've got those down, and I think I want to put my photo kind of right there, top and center, kind of taking advantage of that rule of thirds at the top. But before I put the photo down, I want to put this cute little sunshine sticker kind of tucked under that photo right there. So now I can go ahead and stick that photo down, and then I want to bring in all of those little ephemera pieces that I created with my stamps and my markers and everything. So let me get this straight, and I struggle a little bit with that because even though I'm using my ruler, it didn't look quite straight. So I'm going to turn my ruler the opposite direction and line it up that way. and see if I can get that positioned better, at least to what looks straighter to me. It might have been an optical illusion, but I just wanted to reposition that. And I knew I wanted to use this Summer Vibes sticker for my title, and I thought that looked really cute. I thought about maybe trying to anchor it with something underneath, but I really don't think it needs anything. So I'm bringing in all of my little ephemera stamped images, and notice how I positioned those in that visual triangle. My photo is still the focal point. And I also have these two turtles on each side of the photo, and notice how they're facing into each other. So that's a little trick for you to think about when you're putting your embellishments and photos together and facing them inwards. Now I wanted to ground these little turtles down here at the bottom. So I brought in the sticker leaf, and it did not want to cooperate tucking under that chevron. So I chopped that little stem off. So if you don't want to cooperate and play nice with me, I'm just going to chop you off. But these little turtles are going to play together down here with this beach ball. So I have this nice little cluster here. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that I like to put a lot of foam tape and pop up my embellishments. So I'm going to get a lot of this popped up. And while I do that, if you're liking what you're seeing today in my video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe share the video with a friend if you think somebody else would like it. Now, I decided not to use as many of my embellishments as I thought I would, because I really want the chevrons and the photo to be the star of the show for this layout. I think this is turning out to be so cute. So I'm taking another final look at the sticker sheet, and I find these sunglasses and another little saying. It says relax on here. So I'm going to pull those in, and of course I need to add some foam tape. So I'm going to put some foam tape on there. And of course the sunglasses have to be popped up as well, can't leave them out. And I go to put those sunglasses down, and I'm like, wait a second, they don't go there. The sun needs to have the sunglasses. Now, how cute is that, you guys? Seriously. So one final look at the sticker sheet. I find a little star I can put down here with the playful turtles. Oh, let's have another final look at the sticker sheet. But I think that's going to do it. And there's the final layout, you guys. I hope you love it. I am in love with these chevrons. Thanks so much for watching, guys.